maybe back door, maybe fall off. Sipping codeine cause I gotta kill a cough. Let me sit sideways in the big Benz. Oh, you boys, they my brothers, they my friends.
There's the blitz. Touchdown, Lehman. Touchdown, Oklahoma. Williams got him on the blitz. Lehman on the pick. OU is going to win it again. Peterson's got it. He's got first down and more. High step and touchdown. Adrian Peterson. Baker Mayfield. Kyler Murray. Jalen Hurts. Touchdown.
You're listening to Brandon Drumm,
It's all good, OU fans.
Colin Kennedy,
Oklahoma has the guys once Saturday arrives.
and Parker Thune.
This looks like the year where it's all going to come together for the Sooners.
This is the OU Insider Under the Visor podcast.
Welcome to another OU Insider Under the Visor Sooners podcast. My name is Brandon Drumm. I'm here with Parker Thune, and it is football time in Oklahoma. Hashtag spring version. But it is also Brent Venables' first time to get on the field. We got to witness that for 45 minutes because Brent Venables isn't a paranoid coach. I cleaned up what I was going to say. I had some other things to say there.
Oh gosh, we were gonna come right out the gate swinging.
Might as well. The dude's out on the West Coast. He's sipping his cup of tea on his overlooking the ocean in his $12 million mansion and loving life. Hey, it's football time, man. Like, I'm so excited. Like that was the most hyped I'd been for spring practice ever. And the fact that Brent Venables and his staff said, you know what? Come on, guys. Come on. Come watch it. We're not paranoid about what you're going to see. As a matter of fact, he came out and said, we want you to see this. We want you to see what we are. There's nothing to hide here. Nothing to hide. We are what we are. I love it. And we get another one. We get another practice tomorrow at 9 a.m. Parker and I will be there, and we will have all the updates going on OU Insider VIP board. Everything that we're getting to see goes up on that as it's live. You get to see everything updated live. Parker has video coming. He's got photos. I've got photos coming. We got our takeaways from it, all that stuff coming to you guys on OU Insider VIP. So if you're not a member, get on there. But for this podcast purposes, we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about just our takeaways from the practice. We're going to talk about the culture change, the post-practice talk with the interviews, recruiting, because it is the Elite Junior Day number 3 for OU, and this might be the biggest of them all as far as unofficial visitors go.
I would say it's
I
definitely
can remember.
Definitely the biggest of them all.
And there's more coming, according to a source I talked to today. And we may have another one coming for you on OU Insider VIP if Parker and I can get it confirmed. That's offensive, defensive side. There's more coming too, apparently, potentially. So we'll see. We may have more additions coming on the list on OU Insider VIP. And then we are going to talk about, I got to put my list out here because my phone died on me there. We're going to talk about what we're looking for in practice number 2, things that we may have missed that, maybe we want to go back and reevaluate from what we saw, because it's an open book right now. Nobody has a position unless your name is Dylan Gabriel. You're fighting for your spot. And probably Eric Gray, I would assume. Like, I know Marcus Major.
You think?
I know, but, well, just from the talk of DeMarco Murray, he said he's a pro. He's become the leader of the team. Not often you see leaders of the team sit on the bench. I'm just saying. And maybe just to start the season. I'm not saying he's going to keep the starting spot, but to start, you feel what I'm stepping in there. And then we will get to closing out the podcast, and you guys will get to go on your merry way. So Parker, let's go right into it. Everybody wants to know, How did Dylan Gabriel look in the first time out? And what was your overall takeaway from the spring practice?
Yeah, he looked sharp and he looked comfortable. I think that's the biggest thing. He looked like he'd been there before. And obviously for somebody that had never put on the Oklahoma jersey, even a practice jersey before,
the Robo helmet,
and certainly had never put on the Robo helmet before, he looked perfectly at home. And I'll say this, he wasn't the only guy that stood out to me at the quarterback position. I mean, we saw firsthand that Nick Evers can frickin' flick the ball, man.
Yeah, he can.
That is a guy that has a ton of potential and a really high ceiling. But obviously in 2022, there's little debate to be had. This is Dylan Gabriel's show. And obviously, as they said in the movie Moneyball, one of my favorites of all time, it's day one of the first week, right? You can't judge anything. But
right,
from what we were able to see of Dylan Gabriel, he looked good, and we didn't get the chance to see him fit any throws into windows. They weren't going one-on-one. We didn't get to see him make any throws down the field, but you saw the same thing you saw at UCF, which is clean release, quick release, and sharp footwork. He's not the biggest guy, but he's going to do all the little things the right way, and he's going to play the game with aggression. And I think that's what gets Sooner fans excited about the future of this offense with Dylan Gabriel at the helm, is that there's going to be nothing conservative about the way that Oklahoma plays offense going forward. And that was the critique of the former head coach and his quarterbacks, particularly over the last couple of years, as his tenure wound down, was they seem to be playing a little bit conservative. It's not going to be the case with Jeff Lebby and Dylan Gabriel.
No, it's not. And instantly when you said one of your favorite movies is Moneyball, and you were talking about the first day of practice, all I can see is Jonah Hill and Brad Pitt. And what does he do? Gets on base. The on-base percentage. And when you're talking about Dylan Gabriel, his completion percentage is what's going to matter most. And if anything, as you spoke upon with Nick Evers, the arm is there for Dylan Gabriel, and his completion percentage, I would assume, is going to be probably better than it ever has been in his career, being that this is year, 3 that he will have been under Levy's system. Obviously, he had that 1 year where he wasn't, because that was a new coach and things changed. And obviously Levy went off to Ole Miss. But look, he's going to understand the verbiage. He's going to understand the timing. He's going to understand what Levy wants to do on each and every possession, each and every call. And because of that, I think you're going to see a more complete player than we've ever seen out of Dylan Gabriel. We haven't seen a whole lot, being that he was at UCF, but the morsels that we have seen, he was pretty good. He's never had this type of talent around him either. There's no Marvin Mims, Eric Gray, Marcus Major, Theo Weiss, Jalil Farouk, Braden Willis. Like, those dudes weren't around him at UCF. Now, obviously, he had a former Oklahoma wide receiver, which just so happened to be one of his better wide receivers, ironically, at UCF, but he didn't have a lot of those guys. Like, he has nothing but 4 and 5 stars just laid out at his disposal now. There's maybe 6 quarterbacks in college football that can come out and say that have the talent around them the way Dylan Gabriel. And it's weird how the talent around you makes you look so much better. Like, the Packers this year, obviously Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback, one of the greatest of all time. Is he really going to be as good as he was? Yes, he will. You really think so? You really think? Okay, maybe I'm speaking out of turn.
Trust me, could have come up with a lot of examples there, and we'll continue to noodle on it. But Aaron Rodgers is a legend, no matter who he's throwing the ball to.
That's fair. He's made everybody look good. True that, and obviously, Homeboy's been hurt quite a bit over the last few years too. So that was a bad comparison. Retract that statement, folks. I will go towards. Let's go Dak Prescott, if CeeDee Lamb's hurt, he's not going to be as good, especially since Amari Cooper's gone. He doesn't really have there's not as much talent around him. You know what I mean? Like, so the second you add those type of talents, those type of athletes around you, obviously you become a better player. And that is fully expected with Dillon Gabriel. Now, the question remains, and obviously this is practice number 1, so you never want to get with, he's going to win the Heisman, he's going to be all Big 12, he's going to do this. We don't know any of that, folks. And if you listen to anybody that does say anything like that, turn them off. They're full of crap. They're just pumping you up full of crap that they don't know. Look, I'm being honest with you. Like, he's going to be a good player, but we don't know if he's going to be that elite guy that OU fans are used to. It's expected, being that he's thrown for 8,000 yards, right? Like, that's expected. But it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. And he's never faced week in and week out. And I know people, it sounds weird saying this, Big 12 defenses. And the reason I say that is, one, Big 12 defenses have gotten a lot better. Baylor, TCU, Oklahoma State, they've been really good on defense over the last few years. Really good. So, having said that, he hasn't faced that type of talent week in and week out in the American Athletic Conference. Just hasn't. He hasn't. He's faced kind of sparsely that type of stuff with Cincinnati and Memphis, and I'm trying to think who else in that league would have that type of talent. That's about it, right?
I mean, yeah, that really is about it.
Tulsa every now and then Tulsa they'll be really talented, and they'll have elite guys here or there sprinkled in. Obviously, they had a Butkus finalist a couple of years ago, and so he's not going to be facing 4 and 5 stars across the field like he's going to week in and week out in the Big 12. This is all new to him on a week in, week out basis. So I thought how he looked, how he controlled and kind of commanded everything in the practice was good. The other thing I really liked was, like, Venables didn't, like, excuse my language, didn't put up with shit. Like, he wasn't, like, there was nothing. Did you see, you took a photo of it, like, right after, because I even commented on the board, like, this is what I was talking about in the thread. Right after he reamed it was the defensive line, right? When they were catching passes and they were working on jumping up and catching passes.
Yeah, and granted, defensive linemen don't really catch all that often, so.
But they were like there was a few guys that lollygag. The group as a whole was working their ass off. 2 dudes in a row were just kind of raising their hands up, catching the pass. After the second dude went, Venables had it. He pulled them all together, and I mean, there's none of this stuff. You're going to be getting up there. You got to do it with intensity. Everything you do is for a reason. And I mean, he was ripping into him. What did they do after that, Parker?
They looked a lot sharper.
They looked a lot sharper. Just catching a pass. Nobody dropped passes after that. It's pretty impressive. So, Parker, for you, if you could go, which is the 45 minutes that we got to watch, was there anybody that stood out physically that maybe changed over the few years since they've been here that really changed in the last 3 months under Schmitty? Guys that maybe newcomers that you're like, oh crap, that dude's an impressive looking guy. I know there's several. I know the names you're going to name, so go for it.
I'm sure you probably do, because I've been mentioning them all week on the radio, on the board over at OU Insider VIP. Look, Javonte Barnes, let's start with that dude, because if you didn't know any better, you'd think that dude is a junior or senior in college, as opposed to an early enrollee freshman, a guy that shouldn't even be graduated from high school yet. Javonte Barnes is 1000% ready to play college football tomorrow. And I was immediately impressed with what he brings to the table from a physical capacity and how good he looked, just the juice that he displayed and the burst that he had in the drills that they were running at the running back position. I mentioned, I think you mentioned the exact same 2 out of the secondary that really caught my eye. Billy Bowman and Key Lawrence look like they've packed on quite a bit of muscle. Another guy I would throw in that conversation that is a newcomer, but that looks the part physically already is Robert Spears Jennings, the freshman safety out of Broken Arrow High School up in the Tulsa area. I'm trying to think who else really, really caught my attention. And I spent most of my time over with the offensive guys, was not at a great vantage point to see the offensive linemen. So hopefully we get a better look at them tomorrow. And I'll be spending a lot more time really analyzing the defensive guys tomorrow, more so than anything. But offhand, those were the ones that really stood out, were Billy Bowman, Key Lawrence, and Javante Barnes. Another guy that, and you saw what a jump he made weight-wise from last year's roster to this year's. Kelvin Gilliam looks jacked. Like,
yes,
that is a guy that took a massive physical leap last year to this year.
No doubt. Look, you didn't name number 7?
I did not name number 7. No, I'll leave that one to you. See, not everybody knows who number 7 is too. So I guarantee there are some people listening in their car right now, like, oh boy, who are they about to talk about? Who are they about to name drop?
That's fair. Well, there's this player out of Hays, Kansas, that is a linebacker for the University of Oklahoma. He was a guy that was committed to Clemson, if you will.
And by the way, we've been saying his name wrong this entire time.
Kanak isn't how you say it?
No, it's Kanak. Jaron Kanak. That's going to take some getting used to.
It's going to be really hard to say too, because after you've been saying Kanak, it literally spelled Kanak. Like you say kayak, you don't say kayak. You don't say kayak. Yeah, I even had to, for the phonetic part in my head, I had to literally think it through before I did it. That's hard because that goes against everything we're taught in English. English is a subject of double standards, and I hate it because of that. So Jaron, oh God, I almost said Kanak just now. Kanak, thank you, Parker. I almost instantly went back to Kanak right there. Jaron Kanak. I may just go with Kanak and just say screw it. No, I won't do that to him. Jaron Kanak, right? I said that right. Jaron Kanak. God, man, that is hard to say. That people, when you all say it every day one way and then you do it this way now, do you have to think about it before you do it, Parker?
I have for the last couple days. I think I'll get to the point.
So you're used to it now.
Yeah.
I'm not. This is all new to me. Jaron Kanak. Jaron Kanak is a freak. I took a photo of him and I'm going to post it. I got a close up of him standing next to him. His arms are as big as my head. He's a massive human being.
That's saying a lot there, Brandon.
Yeah, no, it is saying a lot. Yeah. No, they're huge. He does not look like he's only been in a college strength and conditioning and nutrition program for 3 months. Does not look possible at all. It looks like he's literally lived in it for the last 2 years. And he's going to be going into his junior year, much like Javante Barnes. He's a freak, and you could tell he's very comfortable. A lot of freshmen in an atmosphere like that are going to, their head's going to be spinning because everything's going to be moving real fast. There's a lot of yelling going on. There's a lot of, you have to be perfect when you do this, perfect when you do that. No, Kanak was just straight up. He was mellow. He was intense, but he was mellow at the same time and just did his job. From what I could see, he did exactly what he's supposed to do. Not one time did they stop him when I was watching and say, you're doing this wrong. Do it like this, or try to fix whatever technique he was supposed to be doing. He was doing it correct. So that's always a good start when you're a freshman. You can do that and you're built like him and you can move like him. And now if the mental aspect of it all comes together, that's a win-win for Oklahoma because from the sounds of things, Danny Stutzman is another guy that I thought looked like put on some pretty solid weight. He's a good 235 now, at least. He was playing at 220 last year, 225, probably, and that's probably stretching it a little bit. But he's put on a good 10, 15 pounds maybe. Looks really good. I thought Jalen Redmond looked really good. Looked chiseled. Didn't look pudgy. And then when we got to speak to him in the interviews, like his face is more slender. Like he's just more defined, but yet he's sitting over there weighing what was it? We just got emailed the PDF for the roster too. I didn't look at it yet.
Oh, well, here, I'll look it up because I'm actually, as we do this podcast, I'm updating our team roster on 24/7 Sports with all the player data hyperlinked. So let me go ahead.
He's 284. I thought he was 285. So he's 284 right now. But he's a good looking 284. Like he looks the part at 6'3", 284. Like you're supposed to look as a defensive tackle. And I think Kelvin Gilliam did too, man. You said it. I agree. He looked like you're supposed to look. And so did, speaking of somebody that put on some weight and just looks like they're an NFL player already, Ethan Downs. My goodness, dude.
He is going to be a movie this fall. I promise you.
6'4", 260. 260. And he is every bit. I don't know that he's going to put on very much more weight through the rest of his career. I honestly don't think he will. I think 265, 270 is probably about the max you want to see him play as an edge rusher. But he moves like he's 220, 215. Like it is unfair, super unfair what OU has at their disposal athletically with a lot of these guys. And especially in Brent Venables' defense, this is going to be fun to watch. Like that is one thing that I will get probably hyped upon. And I may overhype it. I don't give a damn. Like when you see the athletes that Oklahoma has on the defensive side of the ball, Venables, at the end of Venables' tenure at Oklahoma, they did not have players like they have now at Oklahoma at all. Like they had decent guys that you thought may be able to, because Venables has always been really big on developing, but these guys are developed. They're talented. Now they've got to just learn the verbiage for the defense. They've got to learn the overall culture and the way things need to be done in the defense. As far as, you take this step here to go here. You want your body positioned in this way to get through this gap. Because certain defenses and certain calls take certain steps and body angles and all that type of stuff to get through gaps and hand placement. And it's just everything's very technical in how you do things. So with Venables' defense, once these guys get that stuff down, I think that the it's going to be more thinking, but I think they're going to be so well coached that they're going to react. And I think playing fast is probably, I know OU fans are tired of hearing that, play fast with the speed D crap, but that's also what Venables does. Like he just doesn't have a moniker with it of speed D, like it's just play defense with intensity, like simplistic. Defensively, you brought up your starters that you thought were going to be at the end of the spring, how you thought the depth chart would play out. Can you kind of walk us through defensively how you feel, and then I'll come back around, and if I disagree with one, I'll tell you. If I agree with, go ahead and
sounds good. By the way,
stuff out. Yeah.
One thing that I just want to mention as I'm looking through this roster, it does not look like anybody took a red shirt last year. Not even a guy like Nathan Rollins-Kibonge, who didn't even appear in a game. He's listed as a sophomore. Clayton Smith's listed as a sophomore. As far as I can see, nobody on this roster took last year as a redshirt year, which
it's because they had the extra year of eligibility anyways. It doesn't matter.
Well, not all these guys do. The freshmen don't.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah. So
Wow. Why would
just
they not do that?
I don't know, just kind of caught my eye, and maybe it's just something that's been misclassified. Like Kenai
No,
Walker is also
Clayton Smith didn't get because he redshirted last year.
yeah. Well, I mean, that's what we all thought. I'm just saying, like, as I look through OU's online roster, Clayton Smith is listed as a sophomore. So again, I don't know if that's something that they'd need to go back and revise. I don't know if it's just a default setting in the coding or whatever, but then again, Kenai Walker was listed as a center back on this roster earlier this afternoon. And then I tweeted about it, and now he's listed as a cornerback. So maybe now that I mentioned it on the podcast, those guys will get their get a redshirt freshman designation instead of sophomore designation. But yeah, just something that caught my eye as I sifted through all of this. As far as the starters on defense, starting up front with the offensive line, I think your 4 guys up front, the 4 guys that I would put money on to be your starters are Jonah Laulu, Jalen Redmond, Jeffrey Johnson, and Ethan Downs. To me, those probably are the 4 best guys to roll with. And again, a lot depends on what exactly and how exactly Brent Venables wants to scheme this defense. Maybe he wants more of a speed guy off the edge when it's all said and done. Maybe he'd rather have a Marcus Stripling than an Ethan Downs or a Jonah Laulu. But for my money, I'm thinking along the lines of a traditional 4-3 defense here. So please resist the urge to get in the comments and tell me how infrequently Brent Venables is going to run a traditional 4-3 defense, because believe me, I know as well as anybody just how multiplicitous Brent Venables' looks are on defense. But it gives us a reasonable framework for trying to project what the starting 11 are going to be. So up front, I would say those 4 linebackers. I would say Deshaun White, just based on his experience coming back as a senior, he's done really good things for this program. I believe he'll start. I think David Agwebu, or I'm sorry, I don't know why I said David Agwebu, because I was thinking Danny Stutzman. I don't think there's any question Danny Stutzman's going to start. He is an absolute monster and is going to be even more so of a monster under the tutelage of Brent Venables and Ted Roof. That 3rd linebacker spot is where things get dicey. And I'm not exactly sure who it belongs to. Maybe it's Shane Witter. Maybe it's David Agwebu. Maybe it's Jaron Kanik. There we go. I caught myself. I think that's going to be one of those positions. And maybe it's TD Roof for that matter. So that's going to be one of the positions that I think is very much up for grabs. I kind of want to push my chips to the middle and bet on Kanik just because of how much of a freak he is. Look into the secondary. I think most consider it a certainty that Key Lawrence is going to be your starting strong safety. I think Trey Morrison probably gets first crack at free safety. And then your cornerbacks, in my eyes, until we get a better sense of how these guys are progressing throughout camp, I'll roll with Woody Washington and DJ Graham. And I do think DJ Graham's going to get a healthy push from Kenai Walker and from CJ Colden, the Wyoming transfer who's joining the team in June. So there's a little bit of a lack of clarity there as to who might start opposite Woody Washington. And then if you're talking about throwing the nickel position in there, I would say Billy Bowman, Jaden Davis, Justin Broyles in competition for that spot. And I know there's a lot of love for Bowman. There's a lot of love for Davis. I would actually give the edge to Broyles just because I think I'm a lot higher on Justin Broyles than a lot of folks are. And I think he did a lot of really good things for this program down the stretch last season. And I'm confident, particularly because this is his last season. He's a 6-year senior. This is his last go round. He's going to have a little extra fire under his belly. And so right now I would give him an edge if I had to guess over Billy Bowman and Jaden Davis, although I do think you are looking at a very fierce competition at that position too.
So I'm looking at Clayton Smith is listed as a red shirt on here.
Oh, he is?
So is Nathan. Yeah, they fixed it. Yep.
Oh, that must have just happened.
So,
okay. Well,
I literally emailed, was like, hey, is like, maybe it needs updated because I thought I saw that earlier. I think they fixed the link. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, hey, there's your answer.
Yep. So, um, anyways, yeah. Yeah. So you think the David Uwagbu stuff is kind of where I'm, we saw him kind of working a little bit at linebacker. That was, is he still listed as a linebacker? Because he was on the previous roster as well.
Yes, he is listed as a linebacker.
So see, and we all were talking about defensive end this, defensive end that.
Well, we were talking edge, which I guess you could classify as either a linebacker or a defensive end. I mean, Nick Benito was technically classified as a linebacker last year. So I don't know.
Do they have Clayton Smith listed as DN though? Because that's kind of weird. Being that dude weighs what, 228 pounds, 230.
Wait, hey, hold up. Which roster are you looking at here?
The PDF that they emailed out.
Oh, interesting. I'm looking at the online roster. That's why there's that discrepancy.
That's why you're
looking at the PDF.
Literally emailed. I was like, wait a second. I guess it's fixed. I don't know, man. I thought the dudes were redshirted. They are.
Okay, yeah, sure enough, they're redshirted. So it is just it's a web issue then.
Yep. Okay. Anywho, yeah, I thought that was weird that Uwagbu was listed as a linebacker because, like, he's 250 pounds still. I mean, he's lost some weight. I will say that, like, he did look slimmer. Did he not to you in person? Like, because he was.
I didn't get a great look at him. So to be honest with you, I don't want to speak out of place there. So.
Do you want to know why I thought he looked slimmer? Because at first, when I first gave a glance at him, I was like, dude, Javonte Barnes looks pretty buff, but like not overly big because they're wearing the same number 2. And then I looked down at the roster and it's like red number 2's this, white number 2's this guy. I was like, oh, okay. So because normally white is the offense and red has been the defense, because that's what they've done with the black jersey numbers and stuff like that. So it would stand out. Well, this year they flip-flopped it and I was confused because of that. So it took me a second to look. I was like, dude, Javonte Barnes is huge, which he is if you walk up and stand next to him. But at the same time, he's not 6'4", 250. Because even I was like, he's even added like a couple of inches, because he and I were looking kind of like he was maybe a little bit shorter than me. Not a lot, but a little shorter. So, he was huge. I thought Uwagbu moved a lot better and looked more smooth out there. I still agree with you. Like, I think Danny Stutzman's going to be the starter. I think the other linebacker, look, it's hard to not say Deshaun White's going to start.
It is.
Because he does have a different aura about him this year. Like, he doesn't look beaten down. Like, he doesn't look down on his luck. Like, sometimes after the interviews last year, he just kind of looked like he was like, oh, like, God, like he didn't want to be there. He didn't really want to be like he loved football. But I think this was with a lot of the players on the 2021 team. I think there was a lot of stress, a lot of, you got to live up to this, got to do this, got to do that type of mentality on that team. And I think it wore on him as the season went on. You could see it. Like, you could just see it. Your coaches aren't into it, which has caused you not to be into it because the culture's lacking. And you could see it. Deshaun was one player you could really, do you agree with that? Like, you could just,
I do agree with that. And it didn't really register until now, but as I think back, yes, that's definitely the case. And that makes sense because I know for a fact that in the aftermath of last season, Deshaun White was considering just making the jump to the NFL because he kind of had it at OU. And when Brent Venables got to town, that changed. And
Yeah.
it's that case for several guys. Jaden Davis had 1 foot out the door. Marcus Stripling had 1 foot out the door. It's not any particular secret that a lot of these guys were on the verge of transferring. You heard all the buzz about Marvin Mims. If the former head coach and his staff had stayed in place, this team would have experienced a lot of attrition via the transfer portal.
Yes. So I'll put you like this. A parent told me, like, this parent tried to act like, well, with Riley gone, that's why everybody's going to be leaving. There's going to be mass attrition. I was just like, I told them, I think it's the other way around, brother. If Riley stays, these dudes are out the door. Because I've heard that by a lot of people. Like, and it wasn't just Marvin Mims. It wasn't Marcus Stripling. It wasn't just, Deshaun White. Like, there was a large contingent. Theo Weiss hopped back out of the portal whenever Venables and company got in town. There's a player that, Harrington has tried to come back. Like, he wasn't wanting to come back with Riley in that group, but the new staff, he wanted to come back. Of course, Venables and everything that he stands for, like, that was never going to happen. Like, you quit in the middle of the season. Like, just bad form. Like, Harrington should have stuck that out. He should have stuck it out and just seen what happened after, because he had one more year. Or he could have redshirted since. He could have just went, look, I want to redshirt this year, and I want to see what happens after the season. Maybe I'll transfer. I just got to get a better feel for things. And I think that would have been a lot easier for him to say, hey, Coach V, I want to play for you. And I think he would have said, come on with it. But how that ended, that wasn't going to happen. Not in Venables culture. That's not going to fly. I think another player that I thought probably is transferring, if the previous staff is left around, is I think Bryson Washington's out the door. I really do. I think clean slate, everything that's going to go down, new staff, new culture. I think that he was a player that, and I'm not saying like I expect Bryson Washington to play. Like, he's somebody that for some odd reason, nothing has clicked right for him yet. And that happens sometimes. It's really nobody's fault. I will tell you this. I talked to a source, 2 sources, as a matter of fact, three sources on this, actually. Jordan
sources
Hughes.
on sources on sources.
Yes, correct. Got to source up, bro. We large in that contingent around here, homie. So this player, I was just going to say Jordan Hughes, has come a long ways mentally, academically, off the field, like just been massive in his growth there. However, he's putting in a lot of effort on the field and the weight room and all that stuff. There's a lot of people that think if he could just take it up just that, if he could go to 11 and not 10, and just be up to 11, maybe he would. They think that he has a chance to be a first rounder if he could get up, just get that amp up to 11 instead of 10. A little Spinal Tap reference. You ever seen the movie Spinal Tap?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, that's one of the, because the guy goes, why don't you just turn all your amps up to 10? He goes, but it's 11. Like, there's no logic behind it at all. Anyways, if you watch the clip, it's funny. Yeah, look, man, I think that this defense, and I really, the group that you laid out there, I think has a chance to be one of the best defenses in the Big 12, if not the best defense in the Big 12 this year, talent-wise. Now they got to put it all together on the field. I think that's kind of the big deal there. Offensively, did you lay out your offense? You didn't, did you?
No, I didn't. We hadn't gotten around to that.
I want to hear your offensive line, bro. Go for it.
Okay. Left tackle, you have Anton Harrison.
Yeah.
Left guard, you have McCade Matire. Andrew Raymond center. Chris Murray at right guard.
No Congo, huh? No Congo at center?
No, I trust Ray more than Robert Conjal. And I'm trying to think who in the world did I put at right tackle? I'm completely spacing right now.
Probably Wanye.
It was Wanye. That's exactly who it was.
Yeah. I wanted to take a good look at him no more. I really didn't pay much attention to him because the offensive line was like so far on the other side of the field for us, which they said we could walk over there and watch, but I just didn't feel like getting my butt chewed out if like I happen to get caught in the middle of like somebody doing something. So I stayed
you
on
don't
our
want
side.
Bill Beedenbow pissed at you.
No. I've seen that before. Not at me, but I've seen it at people. Yeah, so here's the center position's kind of funny, right? So there's a part of me, and hear me out,
Okay.
that thinks the best line may be your left guard be Andrew Rain, your center being Robert Conjal, your right guard, Cade McTwire. Your left guard, Cade McTwire, sorry. Your right guard being Andrew Rain, your center being Robert Conjal, your left tackle being Anton Harrison, and your right tackle being Wanye Morris. And hear me out on that. And this is why. Because one, athletically, Rain can do it. If he can put on the strength that he needs to put on upper body, I think that is big for him. That said, if he can't put on the upper body and lower body strength that he needs to be able to play inside, he still has the athletic ability to pop outside if they need to. Like he could play that right tackle spot. He is 6'4", 6'5", like 290, 300, something like 305. I'd have to look at it, but point being is that I don't know. I just feel like he has a chance to. He's 307 actually, and he's a junior, by the way. A junior. How weird is that? I don't know. He would get to learn, and I think that's more than anything, him getting to learn because he still has that COVID year. So he's really got 3 years instead of 2. I do want to point that out. But him being able to learn from Conjal a little bit more, because Conjal mentally, there's nobody better on that team mentally than Conjal. The dude's what, in his 7th year playing?
6th year.
Yeah. He's special mentally. And I think that's why they were more cohesive as a unit last year when he was out there. Which is, you can't argue that. That's fact. It was. Overall talent, Rame is there. Like he is just that dude. Like there's no comparison. Now, if Rame gets the mental aspect down, I'm with you on that. You got to put him at center. You have to. But at that same, you could also flip-flop and put your left guard could be Conjal. Now, I know you're leaving off, what's his name? UCLA. I just want Chris Murray. I know you're leaving him off, but he struggled last year. So if you had a Conjal Rame Conjal, like, what's your thoughts on that? Like, do you see that as like a bad idea?
No, not necessarily. And you saw both guys at the center position last year. I just think physically Rame has a way higher ceiling. And in my eyes, I just think it all comes down to, I think for him, more so than a lot of other guys, it comes down to how he progresses throughout spring practice and fall camp, because the mental aspect of the game is what makes a center so valuable. And the reason Creed Humphrey was and is as good as he is not because he's strong as an ox, though that is true. It's because he was the smartest player on the field. I promise you. Didn't matter what field Creed Humphrey stepped on, he was the smartest guy on it. And that is the reason why he's on track to be an NFL All-Pro and make a lot of money one day, whether with the Kansas City Chiefs or via a fat contract in free agency. So to me, if Andrew Rame has the mental aspect of his game shored up more so than we saw last year, by the time the fall rolls around, the job is his. If not, you use Conjal as your stopgap.
Yeah. Okay. So we've named the offensive line. We all figure Marvin Mims is going to start. We all figure Theo Weiss is going to start. So there's 2. Who am I missing here?
So you have Mims, Weiss. After
Stoops.
that, you have Drake Stoops, Jalil Farouk, Cody Jackson, Brian Darby.
Okay. So after Stoops, okay, I have Jalil Farouk as that guy. I think Jalil Farouk is going to be he's going to have a breakout year. I see it. I feel it. That is like going to be my stamp of, I'm calling it right now. He will be 2nd or 3rd in receiving this year. And there's a good chance he leads receiving because his speed is just ridiculous, by the way. Like he's a 4.4, 4.3 guy. And I know so is Marvin Mims. But when you see Farouk catch the ball, it's like lightning. Like he is, like big things happen when he touches the ball. So I think he's the breakout player this year for Oklahoma offensively, not named Marcus Major.
You're that high on Marcus Major, huh?
I just am. I don't know. I've liked Marcus Major since he was like a freshman or sophomore.
Now, look, I like Marcus Major too. I think I'm at that point
in high school.
Gotta see it to believe it. You know, like we've been
he performed really well in like the games that he's been played in. So
yes, maybe expanded usage is just what he needs. But
yeah,
I don't. You know, you get to a 3rd off season of buzzing about a guy, and you want him to show you something on the field before you actually start to buy in, I suppose.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. So you're going to lean on Javonte Barnes over Marcus Major, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
Yes, okay. I am. I think Javonte Barnes is going to be that dude.
I agree. But those 2 guys that are already there are pretty damn good too. Like, I don't know. There's something about Marcus Major. I think it's because every time he's like gotten decent reps and carries and touches, he's shown out. And I think that's he's always like leaving you. You want more from him every time. You're like, guys, I mean, why are they holding out on him? The next game, he doesn't get to touch the ball again. So it's like, because during the bowl game, he was really good. The year before, during the bowl game, he ran for 115 yards? 120? I can't remember. Something like that.
110, I think.
Yeah. I mean, when given the chance, he's proven that he can do it. And he can do it and look really good doing it, by the way. Okay. Does your boy, the pride of the 402, as you say it, as he runs by us at practice, does he have more than 300 yards receiving this year?
If I had to say over under, I would probably take the under on 300 just because there are so many other mouths to feed in that passing attack. I do think you'll see Caden Helms utilized. And I do think you'll see him utilized, particularly when Levy wants to split a tight end out wide, because it's not any particular secret. He's the fastest tight end on that roster. So you want a guy to get downfield. Caden Helms is that guy at the tight end position. I would probably take the under on 300 receiving yards just because, like I said, he's facing an uphill battle in his own position group because Braden Willis is pretty clearly entrenched as the starter. And then you're talking about at least 4 or 5 wideouts that are going to be prominently featured in this passing attack. So I love Caden Helms' potential long-term, and I do think you will see him on the field some this fall. I would probably take the under on 300 receiving yards.
Okay. Well, we do get practice tomorrow. We're going to get to see a lot more, about 45 minutes more practice. So we'll have more on that on ouinsider.com. VIP board will have a live thread going, our thoughts as we see it live, and then kind of our takeaways later on with photos and video and all that stuff compiled along with post-practice interviews to go along with that. There is a recruiting weekend that's going to be going on this weekend, though. However, arguably the biggest unofficial, not with official visits, not Oklahoma paying these recruits' ways, unofficial visits heading to Norman this weekend. There is a lot going down right now. Oklahoma could be making some moves with some very big-time players in the 2023 and 2024 classes. We're going to have that for you covered wall to wall on OU Insider VIP, but we'll break down some of that here on this podcast right now. We'll start with Parker. I do want to add this before we get into it. Jacoby Johnson hit me up last night. So we're recording this on a Wednesday night. He hit me up on a Tuesday night. He's like, hey, man, I'm not going to make it. My AU team scheduled a tournament now. Because Friday, he's telling me I'm lined up. I'm good to go. My AU tournament, they have a practice. I'm not going to go to the practice. I'm going to go to the going to the junior day. Well, the practice has changed to a tournament in Dallas. So he is not going to be there, but he did say the visits are going to happen. He's going to be at a couple practices in April. Hopefully next week is the first one. So I'll know more about that, and I'll update everybody on OU Insider VIP. But Parker, if you look at that list of what we have, and it's chock full of just 4 and 5 stars just everywhere. Who are you looking for right now? Like, what are you looking for? Who are you looking for? And what do you think Oklahoma can expect out of this weekend?
I think if you're looking at the 2023 class and you're looking at guys that could potentially pop in terms of a commitment, I don't see nobody at least that's super conspicuous that I would say, yeah, there's a chance he commits this weekend. I think obviously you're going to have Caden McDonald in town. We've talked on this podcast about all the connections he has to OU. That's a recruitment that the Sooners are going to have a leg up in at the very least. Kyler Casper is an intriguing case. He's got everything Jeff Lebby looks for in a wide receiver because Lebby loves him some size, and Kyler Casper has it, 6'6", 200 pounds. If Jacoby Johnson's not in town, your other 2023 visitors at that point are Bravion Rogers, Derek LeBlanc, Makari Vickers, Bryson Sanders, and Tyree Young. I don't know that I would predict any of those guys are going to wrap up their recruitment this weekend or this month for that matter, or this spring for that matter. So I don't think this is the type of event where you're going to see a rash of commitments break out. No, I'm not anticipating.
You think there'll be one?
I do think there will be one. Yes. If you asked me to bet on.
Yeah. Never mind. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Besides that one obvious one, do you think there'll be one outside of that one?
No, I don't. I would say no, because I think at that point you're talking about 2024s and you're asking guys who haven't even finished their sophomore year of high school to shut things down entirely. And to me, that's just not plausible. Now, if there is a guy
Stacey Gage, yeah.
It's Stacey Gage.
Mm-hmm.
100% is Stacey Gage. And
yeah,
more people I talk to about that recruitment, the more I'm convinced that that one is as open and shut as David Stone.
Yeah, and I feel like I don't know if I've even put in a crystal ball for him yet, or I don't think you and either one of us
I haven't, but
we?
I'm going to.
Yeah, other people have. I think they did today. But I think it's just I don't know. I guess I'm just really picky about it. So I am. I'm like super picky about, as you know, my crystal balls, because I don't flip them. Once I put them in, like I keep them. And the fact that I'm like almost 80% and I never swap hardly at all my picks, I take kind of pride in that. And I think I'm averaging like almost 200 days a pick too, on average. So that means when I pick, folks, it's 200 days before they commit. So I have my pick in for quite a long time between my pick and their commitment. Gentry Williams, stack that bad boy up pretty high. The 3-year pick.
Yeah, for real. That one did you a favor or two.
Yeah. For me, I think I'm interested to see if the names that we're hearing show up. Number one,
for real.
Because if that happens, it makes this weekend just even more wow, I guess. Makari Vickers is interesting to me. And people that don't know who that is, he's 2023 4-star defensive back out of St. Paul. Is it St. Paul? It's St. Paul the second. St. Paul the second high school in correct? Out of Tallahassee. St. Paul, right? Or is it St. John?
Yeah, it's
I think it's St. Paul.
It's St. John Paul, and it's in Tallahassee.
St. John Paul. Yeah. I said Tallahassee. Yeah. And so everybody instantly, when you hear Tallahassee, I know the people that are listening to this are going, "Oh, Florida State. Kid's gonna go to Florida State." Maybe he's been there a lot. But we're recording this on a Wednesday. You know where he's at, folks? He's in Norman, Oklahoma, and he's not leaving till Monday or Sunday night. So if you do the math, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 5 days. He's on a 5-day unofficial visit. To me, that says something. Like I always say, follow the visits, right?
Follow the visits.
If you're going to spend 5 days in a place, you don't spend it there thinking you're not interested or you're just trying to check it out just to see what it's like. No. You're super interested in that school to the point that could be your pick later on. Now, am I saying that Makari Vickers is going to go to Oklahoma? No, I'm not saying that at all. I am saying that Jay Valai has Oklahoma in a really good spot for that guy. And he would be somebody like if there was like a shocking commitment, that would be it, in my opinion. Like I feel like he would be the guy that would shock. Maybe a 2024 guy out of the DFW or Texas area would be another, shocking commitment if that happened. And there's not a name I could think of off the top of my head, but if it was outside of, and we'll just go ahead and say, if Oklahoma offers Dax Collins out of Poto, 2024 athlete out of Poto,
boom,
that's
done.
a wrap.
Wrap it
for that one. It's wrap it, like wrap it up. They say. That's what she said. I don't know. She could have said that,
but I'll allow it.
No, wrap it up. Are you kidding me? That is not a stretch on that one.
That just completely went over your head there, Brandon.
Oh, I got you. Stretch on the small peanut. Okay. Anyways, yeah, I think that's a wrap for Dax Collins. I also think there's another player out of Sherman I think would be very interested in Oklahoma if he does get the offer. Day. 2024.
Zadavian Sims.
Yep, Zadavian Sims. I think he's a guy that if Oklahoma does offer, they can make quick work of that one, which would put Oklahoma defensive line wise in 2024. You would have Sims, you would have David Stone. You could potentially, in retrospect, I think it would also help Oklahoma with 2023 edge rusher by Job. So there is a lot that can go on here this weekend that can help Oklahoma in the future. Obviously, I think the spring game is going to be huge for OU. I think because you will see official visits that weekend. I guaranteed official visits that weekend. You'll probably see an official visit or two happen for Oklahoma in the month of April, like April, whatever 10th or whatever that date is. That's like the few weekends leading up to the spring game. You'll see a couple sprinkle official visits here or there. Kids that want to get their recruitment over in the summer, like they just are done with it. They want to take their spring visits and get it over with. So you got to talk about Caden Green though. Got to talk about that because he was just in Norman like 3 weeks ago. Like literally was in Norman 3 weeks ago. He goes up to Michigan, goes to Missouri, then decides I'm going to go back to Oklahoma for the 5th time in the last, 6 months?
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. No, 5th time in the last year, I believe. I want to say his first trip up there was last March, if I remember correctly. So, yeah. No, as far as Caden Green is concerned, the one other visit that fell in somewhere in there chronologically was Nebraska. He was at Nebraska earlier this week in between the Michigan and the Missouri visits. Nebraska made a really strong impression, and enough so that he actually put them in his top 5. And I've been talking with Caden and his family for the last couple of weeks leading into the announcement of his top 5. And it was maybe going to be Baylor, maybe going to be LSU. At one point, it was maybe going to be USC. And then all of a sudden, Nebraska's there in the mix. And always kind of knew that it was going to be OU and Michigan. And those, in my mind, and in a lot of folks' minds, are the 2 clear lead schools at this point. But Miami was always in the mix. Missouri was always in the mix. It was always a question of what that 5th school was going to be. And it turned out to be Nebraska. Now, here's what I know about Nebraska. Obviously, I am a product of the 402, so have some connections. Nebraska still has, I shouldn't say still, because this is never going to change that university. They still have, and I said it again, they have a lot of people involved with that athletic program who have some deep pocketbooks and are dissatisfied with the direction of the program and are about ready to see change happen. You get what I'm hinting at, Brandon. They're prepared to play the NIL game and play it pretty fervently. And so I don't know how much of that will come into play with a kid like Caden Green, because Caden just also strikes me as the type of kid that isn't going to be easily swayed by NIL opportunities, particularly because he's the type of talent that can be a 1st-round NFL draft pick one day. Like he's going to make bank if and when that time comes. So I don't get the sense that NIL as the crux of a recruiting pitch is going to be a successful way to get Caden Green on board. So, and that's not to say that Nebraska has no hope, but that is to say that I don't think that alone is going to swing the momentum in Caden Green's recruitment. He's visiting Oklahoma, like you said, Brandon, for the 5th time this weekend. So by the time he's back on the spring game and by the time he takes an official, count them up, that is 7 visits. I'm sorry. You cannot make me believe that a kid who takes 7 visits to the same program doesn't end up there.
No, I'm with you. I was talking to somebody today that thinks that Michigan's making a strong push for him,
which they are.
And it wasn't a Michigan guy. that said it either. But at the same time, they fully believe Oklahoma is squarely in the lead. Like, just they're pretty intact. Michigan apparently feels confident about where they stand. I look that's fine and dandy, but again, follow the visits. That is what you do. You follow the visits. You I, and the weird part is that update wasn't even on, OU's our board. Like, Oklahoma's in the top 5 and they didn't get that update wasn't on our board. So I thought that was weird as well. So look, there's a lot to like if you're Oklahoma in the green situation. There's a lot to like if you're Oklahoma, obviously for Jacoby Johnson, Micah Tease, if they can decide if they're going to recruit him on offense or not. There's a lot to like if you're Oklahoma, if you buy Job. I still look, Georgia made a big play for buy Job, really impressed him. The family aspect's going to be what Oklahoma is going to be able to lean on a lot. The fact that Norman, he's going to be able to go down the street. If he ever needs anything, he's going to have people around him that he can rely on and trust. I think that is going to be big for by Job at the end of the day. So we'll see where that recruitment goes, because by no means do I think Oklahoma is like a foregone conclusion with by Job. But at the same time, I feel pretty good that Oklahoma will at least be one of the final 2 or 3. And then at that point, that's where family and that push, and talking about NIL with his story, what he did in the state of Oklahoma coming out of high school, being a Norman guy, there's a mile of cars in Norman that would line up to endorse that kid and have him be a spokesperson for him. And with the money that goes into that CCS school, whew, that'd be a good get for them. Anybody that wanted to use by Job, it'd be a good get. NIL wise, but he would have to go to OU for that to work, obviously, because if the kid goes to Georgia, nobody in Norman's going to want to endorse that kid. So there's a lot at play here with this NIL stuff and how it can tweak things left and, here or there for programs. I do think, like you said, with the Nebraska deal, like, how much do you think that plays into their overall recruitment and them landing elite guys? Like, do you see them landing any elite guys here in the near through the next 2 cycles, like 4 or 5-star guys?
I mean, money talks, right? And so anytime a school is making a big foray into
the wins and losses,
fair, but sometimes that matters less than the money. And so look, Nebraska still has some prestige as a university. I know they haven't been good in a really long time. I know they were last relevant like a decade ago, but people still think of Nebraska, and kids still think of Nebraska, surprisingly enough, as a blue blood program, a school whose brand means something across the national spectrum. And so I don't know if Nebraska lands any truly elite players. I don't think they'd land a 5-star necessarily, but I do think that their recruiting efforts are going to start to bear more and more fruit, because they are recruiting a little bit better as of late. And when you factor in the NIL and when you factor in all the money that's going to be pumped into this program in the next few years, not just specific to NIL, but in terms of enhancements to the program as a whole, Nebraska, I believe there's going to come a time at which Nebraska is once again a desirable place to play football in the public eye. You can't keep a program like that down forever. And I'll be honest, I think it takes a new coach. I've said that before. I think Scott Frost is a good football coach. I don't think he's the right coach for that job. And so you bring a new head coach, you bring a new culture, and you string together a couple seasons where you at least attain bowl eligibility, because Nebraska hadn't played in a bowl game since the Obama administration, Brandon. It's been a long time for that program. If you start to build some positive momentum, this is a program that may not take as long to turn around as some people might think.
Right. No, I want to believe that, but at the same time, I've seen just how hard it's been for them to turn things around lately. Not lately, over the last, 2 decades? So, or a decade and a half. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Now, do I think Scott Frost can do it? Yeah. I just think Lincoln, Nebraska, at one point, Nebraska had like this allure to it. It just had this, they had like the walk-on thing going. They had people from Florida, New Jersey, Texas. The second they moved from the Big 12, they screwed themselves in recruiting. Just screwed themselves. Because the type of athletes that they were getting, their best athletes were from Oklahoma and Texas. Like, that's not even a lie.
It burned a lot of bridges on the recruiting trail. And I agree. Like, that move did hurt them significantly as a program. But I think it's something that can be reversed. Nebraska just needs to develop relationships and make inroads on the recruiting trail that are as strong as those that they had in the Big 12 days. And that takes time, and it takes effort, and it takes the right people. Like I said, I think at some point you need a new head coach. But if you once you get a new head coach, and if you truly get the right guy, if you get the guy that's going to embrace everything that's good about Nebraska and challenge those within the program to address the flaws that have hampered this program over the years, you could see this thing turn around. You got to come in with Scott Frost in my eyes. Like, you have to. And I know this is going on.
You don't think he can do it? You don't think he can do it? Okay.
No. I know we're way off the beaten path here, but no, I've been saying it for 3 years. I think Scott Frost is a good football coach. Do not get me wrong. I do not think Scott Frost is the right coach for the Nebraska job. And I think that hire was forced on many levels, because it was only right that Nebraska brings home the prodigal son, the guy that won them their last national championship, one of the hot names on the coaching carousel after what he did at Oregon and then subsequently at UCF. The hire, not that it didn't make sense, but it was almost too easy, if that makes sense. So I do think Scott Frost has a future as a head coach elsewhere, and I do think he'll be successful. I think in the long run, Nebraska will be successful as a program. I just don't think those two are a match. Scott Frost is a good coach. He's not a great recruiter, at least not of his own volition. And so what you need, I believe, to turn around Nebraska as a program is you need a defensive mind who can recruit like a maniac.
Yeah.
That guy's not Scott Frost. And there was a lot of buzz from Nebraska circles not Venables, but Marcus Freeman before he took the Notre Dame job, which I don't think it's any secret. Anybody who listens to me on this podcast or on the ref knows that I think Marcus Freeman is an absolute dog. And he was the best hire unquestionably that Notre Dame could have made. But now that that's off the table for Nebraska, who's the guy?
Hold on. Would you leave Notre Dame for Nebraska? Would you leave Notre Dame for Nebraska?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
But Notre Dame has its issues though, because of the academics, and their hands are tied on some of the elite players in the country because of it.
That's fair. And I guess maybe you get to a point in your career where you become disenfranchised about that type of thing and you just want to move on.
Yeah,
and I get
his
that,
name,
but
he's in LSU. He's at LSU right now. He's
I don't know.
dancing it up.
I can't imagine leaving Notre Dame for Nebraska. Not saying it could never happen, because I would have told you 4 months ago I couldn't imagine anybody leaving OU for USC, but here we sit.
So, okay, fair enough. There we go. Way to throw some salt in the wound there, Parker. Hey, when I bring up the LSU stuff, I want you to edit the video of Kelly dancing the circle dance where he's like, well, I don't know what he's doing.
Going to Alabama.
Oh, obviously, because his coach can't dance worth a shit. So that's why. Have you ever watched the line dance that Nick Saban did with, I can't remember who it was. It was like in 2016.
I definitely have not seen this.
Oh, it is glorious. Okay. Their dad played for Oklahoma basketball. Oh my gosh, under Kelvin Sampson. One was a DB, the other one was a quarterback from Sash High School in Texas, the DFW area. Last name started with the M. The DB just transferred from Alabama too.
I can't help you on this one, I don't think.
It's where you Google Sash DB Alabama.
Okay, I'm going to do it. Sash DB Alabama. Let's see what we come up with.
Jared Maiden. My goodness,
okay. Yeah, so when I Googled Sash DB Alabama, that is not what came up.
So anyways, Nick Saban goes on an in-home with them. And he does the clap your hands, right foot time, left foot time. And they have it on video. And he's like getting down to it. Like literally has, dude, the goat has some jive to him, homie. Like he's got some jive to him. Are you Googling it right now for the video? Are you looking it up?
The Saban line dance. I am punching that into my browser as we speak. We have Nick Saban does the Cupid shuffle. This has got to be it, right?
And is that in home? Like you look like he's wearing a red. Is he wearing a crimson blazer?
Yes. Crimson blazer.
Watch it. It is glorious.
I didn't click on it because I don't want my AirPods to do something.
Yeah, fair enough.
My audio to disconnect. But yes, I'm watching it in the little preview window, and it's a sight to behold.
He's got groove though, doesn't he?
He does, like surprisingly enough.
Like the goat can dance. I mean, my goodness. See, that is how you get a kid right there. You're real. Like Kelly wasn't real there trying to like act like he could dance. Like that dude's never danced to any hip hop or anything in his life. I bet you Brian Kelly is listening to country music. And no offense to my country listeners out there, but
full offense to my country listeners out there. Country music sucks. We can fight about that in the comments.
Hey, can I air high five you through the I agree. I hate country music. Though I love you, country listeners that are listening to this podcast. You guys are the best. Notwithstanding, excuse me. Yes, you guys are awesome. So we know that the weekend is going to be huge. We have a full list on OU Insider VIP. And I'm telling you, folks, like, it is insane. And I'm not going to sit here and go name all 40 kids that are going to be there, but there's nothing but 4 and 5 star. It's just laced with elite talent left and right in 2023, 2024. You have Makari Vickers already on campus staying through Sunday. Tomorrow, Caden McDonald flies in, and tomorrow night, Derek LeBlanc flies in. Derek LeBlanc staying until Monday afternoon. He stayed 4 days last time he was in Norman at the end of January. Literally all the way to March 1st. He flew out the morning of March 1st. Let's get that clear. Didn't go by Oklahoma, didn't do anything like that, but he flew out the morning of March 1st. This is the second time he spent more than 3 or 4 days in Norman. Just saying, follow the visits. People want to say Florida leads this, Florida leads that. Derek LeBlanc is the guy that everybody around Norman feels they're in a very good spot. He isn't announcing until January or until July 23rd. So that is a problem in a sense. He can have more time around Florida since he lives literally like in 2 hours from Gainesville, Florida. He lives 3 hours from Miami. Then you have Caden McDonald's coming in, obviously, like I said, yesterday or tomorrow, and he's going to stay through Sunday night. His little league teammate and quarterback was Jackson Arnold.
No.
Who's Jackson Arnold committed to? Oklahoma. So that's huge for OU. His brother also played for Brandon Hall. Brandon Hall was the DC at Troy. He was also the interim head coach. So his brother played for Brandon Hall for 2 years. So Caden has known Brandon Hall for a long time. Obviously, one of the first people to ever recruit Caden McDaniel was Todd Bates when he was at Clemson. So that relationship with that family is really close with a lot of the OU guys, including Ted Roof, who is really good friends with the North Gwinnett head coach, high school head coach, because he's from North Gwinnett. Also, the director of player personnel, the offensive scout, and NFL liaison for Oklahoma, Drew Hill, is also from that area. So there's a lot of connections there. Oh, and mind you, Trey Morrison, the new defensive back for the University of Oklahoma, transferred in from North Carolina, grew up with Caden McDonald, and his brother is his best friend. So the connections are deep in Norman, and the fact that his mom grew up right on the border of Oklahoma, Texas, and Arkansas. Look, the OU has a chance to pull one of the top defensive linemen out of the state of Georgia. And I haven't ever seen that happen, but it dang sure might happen this time. Like, they have a really good chance.
Todd Bates.
Yeah, I mean, not to mention all the other Georgia cats that are going to be. What is there, like 7 or 8 Georgia visitors this weekend?
There are a lot.
They're probably
most
all
notably.
There's a lot.
T.A. Cunningham, Heaven Brown Schuler. Is Justice Haynes still coming?
Ooh, I need to double down on that. He was. I'll have to ask him again. I got his number. I'll ask him. Obviously, Caleb Downs, 5-star defensive back out of Georgia, supposed to be visiting this weekend. The possibility is still there. Like, we're going to know some things tomorrow on visitors. I'm not saying that's going to be him as one of them. I just know that there's more additions coming offensively and deep, not coming, potentially coming offensively and defensively. So I think that is huge for OU. Finally, we get practice tomorrow before we end this podcast. We get practice. Yep. Hey, let me ask you something. What are you looking forward to most tomorrow? I know we've already got to see one practice. Like, what are you going to watch closest this time around?
You know, it's tough. I'm going to be honest. It's going to be tough for me to balance the time that we have at our disposal, because obviously got to get pictures, got to get video, and got to try to take a step back and do some analysis too. So I think what I'm most excited for is probably to see the linebackers work, because I was watching mostly offensive guys on Tuesday, as I mentioned earlier in the podcast. So that linebacker group in particular, and it's really no secret because of the presence of Brent Venables, but there's so much to be excited about with that particular position group. And so seeing Jaron Kanak, seeing Jaron Kanak and Kobe McKenzie up close in person. Seeing David Igwebu, obviously still in the mix, Danny Stutzman, Deshaun White, seeing all those guys working and repping. I think that's probably the one position group I will really hone in on tomorrow. That and the secondary.
Do you think that they're going to do the same drills that they did to start this previous practice? They do. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, I would hazard a guess that no two Brent Venables practices are ever the same.
I want to agree with you on that, and my fingers are crossed that is a fact.
I'd like to see some
really
one-on-ones.
hope. That's what I want. Like that, you're not showing us anything. They're literally just running routes and doing one-on-ones. Same thing that you would do at a 7-on-7 tournament or anything like it's nothing new. Like that's, oh my goodness. Like I hope that happens, man. That would be intense to watch one-on-ones and us actually get an eval of what they look like in one-on-ones. Who stood out? Who made really good plays? Who made catches here? Did this, did that? I think that's huge. For me, I think I want to see, like you said, I agree. One-on-ones. I think that for me is where most notably, if we can get that and watch that, that would be awesome. Number two, I want to see them run some offensive plays and defensive plays. They don't have to get like, they could be generic for all I care, but I want to see Dillon Gabriel's command to that offense. I want to see it with my own eyes. I want to see how he interacts with players when mistakes are made. Obviously, they're not going to be like hitting or anything like that. They'll probably have shoulder pads on for the first time. But I want to see how they move and I don't know. I think running back rotation's big. Like, is Javonte Barnes ahead of Marcus Major? Marcus Major ahead of Javonte Barnes. We all know Eric Gray's probably the penciled-in starter right now. Jalil Farouk, center position. I think center position's huge. Like, is Andrew Raym going to overtake Robert Conjol? Is Robert Conjol going to hold off Andrew Raym? Can they move to guard and supersede maybe a Chris Murray? Can the defensive tackles, is Jordan Kelly going to be able to reach his potential that we've all seen at times and then it go away? What about, I don't know, Clayton Smith? Like, those are the type of things that I want to see. Like, what are these dudes going to do? Jordan Mukes, the new guys. What are we going to get to see with Trey Morrison? What's the other new defensive back from Louisville? Kenai Walker. What about Kenai Walker? What are we going to get to see with him? What about Key Lawrence at safety? Woody Washington, DJ Graham, does he feel more comfortable in Venables' defense than they did with Grinch's? I mean, there's so much for us to take in while taking pictures, while doing video, while doing all. I mean, there's a lot going on at once, and yet we're still trying to evaluate it all at the same time. So I can't wait for tomorrow. I can't wait for us to get that live thread going again, and you and I sit there. And that's another thing we got to do, because we see it, we got to instantly put it on that thread and say, hey, we just witnessed this, or we just noticed this at the practice, so that our VIP members get a feel for what's going on inside the practice that we're at, and they can't see. We're their eyes and ears. So, which leads me to, as we end this podcast, the 50% off. Like, if you're not on OU Insider right now, I appreciate y'all listening to the podcast. Love you guys for it, actually. But you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong when you should be doing it right. And doing it right is, you can sign up for $1 for the first month, $9.95 afterwards, which means you'll get all the way through the spring game now. If you sign up 1 month, $1. So you sign up right now, be the 24th, 25th, whichever day you sign up. You'll get all the way through the spring game. You'll get all that information, the official visits. Hey, Levius Overton's visiting on the spring game. We'll have updates from that. Psst, psst. It's kind of a big deal, the number one player. So just throwing it out there. Top defensive lineman coming in with his brother, Mekhi Overton, on an official visit. You'll also get I mean, recruiting updates, team notes, all that stuff that we're going to be doing during the spring because we get access now, which is fantastic. We will be doing, you can do, if you don't want to do that and you want to sign up for 50% off, $53.70 gets you $108 in value, which means if you do that, you not only get OU Insider Access, VIP, all the information, recruiting, team, basketball, football, baseball, softball, gymnastics, all the stuff that we cover at OU Insider, but we're very deep in football and football recruiting. Like we bring notes every day for you guys on that. You'll get that. Plus you'll get all 250 247 sites, all the VIP. So if you want to go check out Alabama, go check out Alabama. Texas A&M, go check out Texas A&M and see what their VIP, see what they're doing on the recruiting trail. Go see what Texas is doing. Go talk your stuff to them on their VIP. You'll probably get banned eventually, but go talk it till you get banned. But then you can just view it and you still get all the information and you can bring it back to OU Insider and talk it up like they do anyway. So everybody goes to those boards and links it back to us anyway. So you get that. And you also get to talk to thousands and thousands of people just like you that are diehard Oklahoma fans that love to talk OU football 24/7. I can get on OU Insider right now and it could be 4 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock, doesn't matter. There'll be almost 1,000 people on that board at all times. During peak times, 8 through like 10 p.m., 8 a.m. to 10 p.m., things got 3,000 or 4,000 people on it at all times. And trust me, we have way more members than that. So my point is that you're dealing with all fans like you, and we would love to have you. I do a VIP chat every week. Parker does his stuff every week as well, where he answers questions, does all that. And we're more open. My PMs are open. Anytime you have a question about OU football, anything, Parker and I will answer it. We'll get to it. We're about as open as you can get as far as analysts and mods and reporters. Like we're an open book on our site. We're about as nice as they come. So $53.70 right now, only lasts through Monday. So look, it's going to end and then we're not going to do it again until the spring game. And then you'll get it then probably, but like it's going to be a while before you get that. And you're going to miss out on all the official visitors, all the junior day stuff, all the stuff leading up to the spring game. And then if you don't sign up, then you're going to miss after all the champion barbecue, all that stuff that goes in the off season and then the season. I mean, it is well worth it. We've hit record numbers each and every month as far as members go. We've hit record numbers each and every month as far as traffic goes. And again, we can't thank you guys enough for that. You OU fans do that for us. You guys make it awesome. You guys are the reason why we're here. You're the reason why we do all that. What's up, man?
Yeah, one other thing I wanted to add, and I know when we release this podcast, we're going to have that one member on our board that's saying, why isn't Parker looking at the camera when he's not speaking? Well, the reason is, while we've been doing this podcast, I have been laboriously sifting through to try and get a useful tool on our site updated, and one that hasn't been functioning accurately since like 2019, because I had to sift through a lot of debris to get back up to speed. But by the time this podcast goes live, the scholarship distribution page within our site will have been fully updated. All the changes I've made on the back end will reflect on the front end, and you can go ahead and click that link. It's at the top of the screen underneath the football recruiting tab. You're going to see it. It's called scholarship distribution. So if you want to go there, you want to look at what a particular position group looks like right now in terms of personnel. You want to look at how that compares to what Oklahoma is bringing in the next recruiting class and how they're making an effort to shore up some of their shortcomings in terms of personnel. It is all right there for you. Every single scholarship football player at the University of Oklahoma is listed right there on one convenient chart, and it is all available to you. You can see their rating coming out of high school, whether they were a 3, 4, 5-star recruit. You can see who's walking on to the team, and you can see how each of those positional groups break down, who's playing where. And we'll continue to update that throughout the spring and on into the fall if anything changes. But that is yet another useful feature of our site that we haven't had up to speed in quite a while, but is now 100% correct, accurate, and at your disposal.
There you go. Another reason why you want to be on OUinsider.com VIP or OUinsider.com period, because we do everything we can to make sure down to the minute detail is functioning correctly for you guys. And if you guys tell us something's not working, we work as hard as we possibly can to make sure it does work, or go to the right people to make sure it does work for you guys. But that's going to do it for this podcast. We can't thank you guys enough again for listening. We got spring practice coming. There'll be more notes coming on OU Insider VIP live thread tomorrow during the practice. Man, football time in Oklahoma is here right now for spring, and it's Brent Venables' first spring. Everybody's excited about it. So come to OUinsider.com. Come to OUinsider.com. Go to the VIP board. We have notes everywhere for recruiting, team, all that stuff for you guys. And we're going to continue to bring that each and every day for you throughout the month of March, April, May, June, July, August, all the way through the season. And we're psyched. We're ready to go, man. Can't thank you guys once again for listening. For Parker Thune, my name is Brandon Drumm. Thank you once again for listening to OU Insider Under the Visor podcast, Sooners podcast, excuse me. You guys have a blessed day.